YouTube, what's going on? Welcome to the Off the Schneid 2020 NFL Preview Series, where I'll be going over all 32 NFL teams, breaking down their rosters, their schedule, giving you a record prediction, as well as helping out with some betting tips. If this is your first time at the channel, do me a massive favor, hit that like and subscribe button, turn on notifications, and check the description for links to social media for Off the Schneid. Follow us on there as well. I want to give a massive shout out to OurLads Scouting Services and OurLads.com for helping me to make these videos. I'm on their website almost daily, and if you're a serious football fan, guys, you need to have this website bookmarked, favorited, whatever it is. Helps me at draft time, fantasy football purposes, when creating bet slips, as well as DFS lineups. It's your one-stop shop for NFL scouting services. There's a link in the description for OurLads.com as well as the social media. Do me a favor again, hit that like and subscribe button. But enough of that. Let's get to your favorite NFL football preview. We got the first year of the Las Vegas Raiders, which should be really good. The Vegas fans were fantastic for the hockey team. They went to the Stanley Cup final the first year that Vegas had a team, and I think that the fans and the atmosphere and the brand new stadium and everything like that should play dividends and be absolutely wonderful for this team and for this franchise. I feel bad for the guys in Oakland, the people in Oakland, but I mean, at the end of the day, I think the players are going to be happier, and there's going to be some crazy fans in Vegas. So it should be really fun and interesting to watch. We'll start with the quarterback position. As always, we got Derek Carr, who concerns me. I'm not sure his stats are fine. That's the thing. His stats are fine. But when you watch the games, it's just like there's just something missing there, to be honest. That's just how I see it. They went out and grabbed Marcus Mariota from the Tennessee Titans, and for some reason John Gruden just loves Nathan Peterman. I don't really know why, but for some reason he loves to have him around. I honestly just don't think that Derek Carr or Marcus Mariota are the answer here long term at quarterback. I just don't see that being the answer long term. We'll see what happens, but I wouldn't be shocked if either in the next offseason or next year's draft, they're looking at filling a quarterback and a starting quarterback. So we'll see, but I definitely think there's a ton to like, but there's a couple holes, and one of the important ones is quarterback. It's obviously the most important position in the NFL, and to me, I don't want to call it a hole, but it's a point of weakness on this team, again, in my opinion. So Derek Carr, Marcus Mariota, they got Josh Jacobs, who is fantastic, and I think will take another step forward this year. He seemed to be a little banged up. Maybe his body just wasn't quite NFL ready. He still had 1,150 yards, 8 touchdowns, I think. And he was just fine last year, and he'd be just fine if he did the exact same thing this year. But I expect him to take a bit of a step forward and maybe help out more in the passing game. I wouldn't call him like a true workhorse and a 3-down back. They do still have Jalen Richard, and I really like the drafting of Lynn Bowden, who I think can do a lot of different things, including throw the ball for this team. I think he's going to catch a bunch of passes. Some people have him as lining up in the slot. I don't. I agree with our lads here, and I have him lining up in the backfield, catching a lot of passes out of the backfield, don't get me wrong, and potentially doing some gadget pass plays and stuff like that. And he will run the ball a little bit as well, but I think he'll primarily be a pass catching back out of the backfield. That's just my opinion. We'll see what happens. But I really like Lynn Bowden. That was a solid pick. And then tight end, they went out and signed Jason Witten. Obviously, he just wasn't done playing. This was a big shock to me. I kind of figured if he wasn't playing for the Cowboys, he wasn't playing. 1 year in the booth, that was just a bit of a disaster for Jay Witt. But he can absolutely help this team a lot and help be a leader for a guy like Foster Moreau and Derek Carrier, who I really like, both those tight ends. And then Darren Waller obviously had a huge breakout season, but he's 27 years old. I mean, that's still fine. He's in the prime of his career right now. He could still be one of the best tight ends for the next 3 years in the league. So that's definitely fine. But that leadership is definitely going to help out with Jason Witten, absolutely. Offensive line, they're one of the better offensive lines in the league. They were top 10 in sacks allowed, 29 sacks allowed, which is absolutely exactly what you want out of your offense. They're definitely a top 10 offensive line in the NFL right now. Colton Miller should be a little bit better. Richie Incognito, I'm not sure if they have actually signed yet to be on this team. I'm not sure if he's actually been signed. John Simpson, though, he could be a guy that slides right in there, starts day one at left guard for this team. And everyone else on this team is absolutely fine. They have two very good tackles, like I said, Colton Miller and Trent Brown, two very good tackles there. As far as wide receivers are concerned, obviously speed kills. They add 4.2 speed in Henry Ruggs, which is going to be huge for stretching the field for this team. It's something that they absolutely did not have last season, and we'll be super excited to have coming into 2020 here. I expect Hunter Renfrow to be, I think he might be one of the better slot receivers in the league this year. I think he takes a big step forward. If you look at his last, I think 3 or 4 games last season, he had 3 of his last 4 games, I think he had 100 yards, something like that, after he came back from an injury. So I think Hunter Renfrow takes another step forward out of Clemson and is one of the better slot receivers in the game this year. I do see that. Henry Ruggs, like I said, starting on the outside, burning it down the field, and extremely good yak yards. He should be great for that. The thing I just don't quite agree here is Tyrone Williams. I do like Tyrone Williams, but I think he's a little bit injury prone, and I've said before, and I'll say again, I don't think he's on this team after this year. They can cut ties with him pretty cheaply after this season, and I think they do just that, and I think Bryan Edwards slides into that spot for sure. I think that is kind of the future of this offense is Henry Ruggs, Bryan Edwards, Hunter Renfrow in the slot. That's what it looks like to me. Those two on the outside, Hunter Renfrow in the slot, and then Josh Jacobs, Lynn Bowden in the backfield. It's just, and Darren Waller with a good offensive line. There's nothing wrong with this offense at all. I really like the Raiders. I really, really do. And that's kind of something I'll get to about Mike Mayock. People, he's had 2 fantastic drafts, in my opinion, in a row. We'll use that kind of segue to pop over to the defensive side of the ball, where he just drafts guys that he believes in and he thinks will be good players, and he's a scout, man. That's what he's done for years and years and years, is just scout college players. So he is fantastic at doing it and just finding talent at every level and anywhere in the draft. So I'm never gonna say anything against Mike Mayock about his drafting or who he picks or where he picks them until he's wrong. So people were really not happy with the Damon Arnett draft pick. I was super shocked. I definitely did not expect Damon Arnett to be their pick there. But if he turns out to be Max Crosby, or Cleveland Farrell, then he's going to be laughing, and the Raiders are going to be laughing. So if you look at their defensive line, man, this is a dangerous defensive line, extremely dangerous. Max Crosby, again, 4th round pick last year, rookie, 10 sacks. It is extremely difficult for rookies to have double-digit sacks in the NFL, extremely. And he's a 4th round pick. Unbelievable value. And he should just get better this year. Cleveland Farrell, same thing, should definitely get better. Carl Nassib they pick up from the Buccaneers. I believe he had 8 sacks last year, something like that, and he's not even a starter on this team. Arden Key, he can get after the quarterback. And then on the line, they grab Malik Collins from the Cowboys, Maurice Hurst, who was I think a 3rd round pick last year, something like that, who had 1st round value and 1st round talent. Even Jonathan Hankins comes in. PJ Hall can get it done. This is a dangerous defensive line. And like I've always said in a few of these videos, if I'm building an NFL team, I'm starting on my lines, offense and defensive lines. And the Raiders have a fantastic offensive and defensive line. Fantastic. And then if you build back, the Raiders have some fantastic linebackers. They go out and sign Corey Littleton and Nick Kwiatkowski from the Bears. Nick Kwiatkowski is going to be a good linebacker, and I don't wish, I'm not a Bears fan, but that's a big loss for the Bears in my opinion, big loss. And Littleton will be fantastic. They have Nicholas Morrow in the will right now. That could be Kyle Wilbur. I really like the Tanner Muse draft pick as well. He might play a little safety, but their linebackers are in a real good position. We'll go to safeties. Safeties are just fine. Jonathan Abram was a late round, 1st round pick, I believe, last season. And then they signed Jeff Heath. They still got Eric Harris, who is really good. Demarius Randall, they have listed as a starter. There's potential he's not the starter and maybe doesn't even make this team. Jeff Heath, I think Eric Harris might be the starter there, in my opinion, but we'll see. Either way, that's a strength. Jonathan Abram is very good safety as well. Eric Harris might be backing up Jonathan Abram, but we'll see. And then Tanner Muse might be in there as well. We'll see how it shakes down. The biggest weakness on this team for sure is at corner and their secondary. I absolutely expect them to play a fair bit of zone and just kind of just try to get after the quarterback as best they can. If this defense kind of falls flat, I think Paul Gunther might be kind of on his way out potentially. We'll see. I don't expect them to. I really don't expect them to. I think they have a ton of talent on this team and on this defense especially. But I mean, if you're signing a guy like Prince Amukamara to kind of be a plug and play starter, that's not a great situation. Trayvon Mullen should be fine. LaMarcus Joyner I really like, and Amik Robertson. I really like that draft pick there. I mean, Mullen should be fine unless if Damon Arnett or Isaiah Johnson can move into that other slot and play at a high level right now. I don't particularly expect that, but it would be an improvement over Prince Amukamara, in my opinion. I don't think any NFL team right now should be relying on Prince Amukamara. I just don't think so. Maybe I'm completely wrong, but that's just my opinion on it. So I think there's a ton to like on this team. They might not quite be there yet, but I think even if Derek Carr is the answer, even if he is the present and future, they're not far away at all. They're really not far away. A couple small pieces and even just some guys getting some more experience, and they're going to be right there with, in my opinion, the Broncos and maybe the Chiefs, So we'll see, but I think there's a ton to like, and I really like how Mayock is building this roster. I should give Gruden a little bit of kudos as well. He's probably playing a big role in this as well. But either way, let's take a look at their schedule and the record prediction. So here you go. Here's the record prediction, low, high, my. This team went 7-9 last year. So I absolutely expect them to improve on that. It's a problem when you're looking like your potential playoff team. You're 6-4, and then you go 1-5 in your final 6 games. That's where I kind of get a few things about Derek Carr maybe not being the answers. You got to win some of those games, and you got to keep your team in it. I just don't know if he can do that, if he can kind of be that guy. But I mean, this is going to be a big season for him, a big season for Derek Carr. So you absolutely can't finish the year on that kind of a run, especially when you're losing to teams like the Jets, the Chiefs, of course. They lose to the Chiefs, that's fine. But they lose to the Jets, the Titans, the Jags, the Broncos. Two playoff teams in there, and you go 1-5. That you obviously just can't end your season that way. Absolutely cannot. So they need to improve. I think they will. Flip that around, go 9-7. I think they're getting extremely good value to win the division, but I just don't think they're quite there yet. I really like a lot of everything that the Raiders are doing. I really like everything that they're doing, but I just don't think that they're quite there yet. They do play an easier schedule than the Chiefs and the Chargers, as I've said in a few of these AFC West episodes here, but I don't think they're quite there yet. So let's look at their schedule. Week 1 at Carolina. That's a reasonable test, but one that they absolutely have to win. Even if you're on the road, you have to beat a team like the Panthers this year if you want to be a playoff team. And I've said a few times, I think that the Raiders probably slide into the playoffs and maybe that third wild card, or one of the 3 wild card spots. I think that they could slide in there. And that if they do, they have to win a game like that. At home against New Orleans, that's an opening game in the stadium. So, I mean, that's an interesting one. That's a very, very tough game against a very good opponent, but you're going to have a rowdy fan base if there's fans. I mean, this all remains to be seen if there's fans in the stands, but it's a brand new stadium, brand new city, everything like that. They're trying to show out. Should be interesting. At New England, that's another good test. It's similar to the Carolina game. That's a game that you have to win if you want to be a playoff team, even on the road. You have to win that game. It's still September. It's not super cold in Foxborough. And the Raiders are a better team. All around, they're a better team than the Patriots. They just are. Are they going to win that game? I don't know. That's a tough one. That's kind of where I'm on the fence here with my, low, high, my. I didn't go on a crazy limb on any of these projections because there's a lot of uncertainty and a lot of like kind of tweener games like that. At home against Buffalo, that's again a very tough game in their own building. This will be the second game in Vegas, so it should be interesting and see how the fans respond and everything like that. But this is a tough stretch before their bye. This is a good schedule to have an early bye right there in week 6 at Kansas City. I just did KC's, and I think they probably sweep the Raiders just because of how the schedule lines up for them. It just, yes, it's right before the Raiders bye, but it's also in Kansas City. That's a tough game, obviously, and not one that I expect them to get the win. So if they're sitting there at 2-3 on their bye, that's not exactly where you want to be. And then at home against the Bucks, tough game again, but at home should be helpful. On the road against Cleveland, I actually might be generous with my record prediction because I like the team so much. Realistically, I just think that this team is going to go as far as Derek Carr will take them. And I'm not so sure he can take them, that far. I'm thinking he can get them to the playoffs, but they're going to have to play well in these early games. They definitely have a weaker schedule down the at the bottom of their schedule at the end of the season. It's absolutely gets weaker and easier. So they have to kind of just try to stay above water in early on in the season, in my opinion. That's how I see it, is just keep your head above water, stay at about 500, and then pick off the weaker teams at the end of your schedule. That's kind of how I see the Raiders playing it out, and that's what they need to do, in my opinion. And then at the Chargers, that's absolutely, again, one that you have to get the win. You have to get that win in LA. It's a brand new stadium too, but that's a team that you have to beat if you want to be a playoff team. At home against Denver, decent possibility they split with the Broncos, so that hopefully they can get that game at home. Against KC, I think that's right after the Chiefs bye, so Andy Reid after a bye doesn't really lose, so that's going to be a tough game for the Raiders to get the win. And like I said, in the Chiefs, I think I'm saying right now, I think the Raiders, good possibility they get swept by the Chiefs this year. At Atlanta, they have far and away way better defense than the Atlanta Falcons. Even with their weak secondary, they have a better defense than the Falcons. And the offense, the Falcons' offense is better for sure, but they might be able to keep up because the defensive line for the Raiders is absolutely going to be able to get after Matt Ryan with the Falcons' weak offensive line. But we'll see at that point in the season. They go on the road and play the Jets. These two teams are fairly similar to me, the Jets and the Raiders. I think the Raiders have more talent on their roster, but they're close. Then at home against Indy, I think that's a game that they should get the win. At home against the Chargers, should be able to get that win as well. At home against Miami, see what I'm saying? It gets weaker as the season goes on. So if they can just keep their head above water in the early, before their bye and just after their bye, they can keep their head above water, stay at about or above 500, right around there. They should be able to sneak into that last wildcard spot, or one of the wildcard spots late in the season with some of these weaker teams, as long as they're playing well, getting better, that kind of thing. I think that they can slip in there. And then the Week 17 game against the Denver Broncos in Denver, that's a massive game, and it's very possible that's an absolute must win for the Raiders. They absolutely must win that game to get into the playoffs. It's possible. They might already be in, and it's just a matter of seeding. We'll see. We'll see how it shakes down. This is going to be an exciting season. And there's a lot to like for the Raiders. Like I said, I think there's just a couple pieces away, and they're going to be right there with the Broncos and the Chiefs, in my opinion. I think the odds, like I've said before, are way too in favor of the Chiefs. I think there's a lot of money that could be made. It's hard to bet against the Chiefs. They're the Super Bowl champs. They are the best team in the world right now. They have the best quarterback in the world, one of the best tight ends, one of the best wide receivers, all this stuff, one of the best defensive linemen. But I think with a couple more pieces, the Raiders and the Broncos could be right there with them. So we'll see how it shakes down. But there's your breakdown, your preview for the 2020 Las Vegas Raiders.